The Indomitus box set, and 9th edition in general, puts Necrons at the forefront of 40k at the minute. I wanted to paint mine, but I didn't want to paint them in the normal kind of silver and green colour scheme that you typically see for Necrons. I wanted to go instead for something of a more Tutankhamun-inspired gold and blue effect. In the following video, I'm going to take you through a few easy steps so that you can hopefully go ahead and recreate this if you want to for your Necron army. The first thing you're going to want to do is assemble your models. Once they're assembled, go ahead and undercoat them. I used Corax White here from Citadel. I'm doing short bursts from about 6 to 12 inches away, making sure to get underneath as well. Here you can see them with their kind of even coats, and they're pretty much nicely dry now. You just want to create something for the paint to adhere to next. Next, you're going to use Vallejo Liquid Gold. I only came across this paint very recently, but honestly, it's so good. As you'll see here, it's very runny, kind of more runny than what you might be used to. And you basically want to generously apply it to the entire model. I think it's alcohol-based or something else, some kind of thinner rather than water, and it dries really quite quickly. Just stick it all on there. Here, while you're waiting for it to dry, I used my son's toy car as a dolly, just for a kind of fun shot. Here you are, the proud owner of some kind of C-3PO looking Necrons right now. I'd quite like to see an army like that, but next up we've got an Agrax Earthshade. Absolute lifesaver here of a shade wash. Again, you're going to just liberally apply this to the entire model, making sure to cover every surface so that you give the paint the opportunity to go into every little recess that it can do. Here I'm making sure it gets on the legs and the feet, and here on the weapon. Probably got a little bit too much on the weapon here, but you can use your brush to kind of mop it away if you like. There it is, wet, that's how it looks. Here we have a side-by-side of the two models, and here we have it dried, so you can see how it's really shaded the model really well for actually very little effort. And because it's such a bright gold paint underneath it, you're actually fine to put loads of Agrax Earthshade on there. Here's the character that I actually stopped painting halfway through, but you can see there the effect it's had. Next, you're going to have Stormhost Silver, which is a Citadel paint. It's a very thick one, or at least mine's a very thick one. And we're basically just going to dry brush it here. Dry brush the models here. So with a very soft brush, basically get some paint on there and then get rid of most of the paint. And then you're going to go ahead and basically tickle the entire model, shyly at first, and then, you know, getting a bit more excited. Just to kind of bring out some highlights on that model. So you'll have the mid-tones of the gold, the silver for highlights, and the Agrax Earthshade. Here's a comparison of without the silver and with the silver. You can see the comparison there. And here's how they look with that silver dry brush coat applied. Next up, you're going to want to paint the weapons white, and this is basically a base layer so that your next colours adhere well. I'm just using some Vallejo model colour white here. You could use a lot of different paints for this, to be honest. You're going to water it down and basically try and get a very thin, even application all over there. And you want to get it, if you can avoid getting in the little sort of creases, then do so. If not, then just slap it on there. Next up, we're going to use a few different techniques in order to see how we could colour the weapons, just so you can have some options really. Some simple, some not so simple. So here I'm literally just using Vallejo model colour blue and just loads of water and just thinning it down to create basically our own wash, if you like. And that blueness will go in all those recesses and shade it and let the high points stay white. Next up, just some Citadel Druchii Violet. I thought I would do a purple one just to see how it works with Druchii Violet. I've used it for Tyranids before. I thought I'd try it on here. And yeah, you just get a kind of nice thin purple coat here. I don't think it looks as good as the blue, to be honest, but you know, if you like that, then it's a totally valid way of going for it. Here I used some Citadel contrast paints, and I just thinned it with water, like nothing too fancy. This one hasn't been shaded very well because my 3-year-old actually put the Agrax Earth shade on this one, trying to involve her. Next up is my favourite way of doing this kind of colour blending glow is the airbrush. But actually my needle's bent in my airbrush and it's pretty catastrophic, to be honest. It's not going on how I'd want it to, or yeah. Here I'm doing some OSLs, that's like object source lighting, so basically making some blue glow on the model. Here you can see how it looks after the blue. Then I'm basically adding some white, and I'm going to blend in a kind of glow to the center of that shaft, if you like, that cylinder on the weapon. Here's how it looks after that. Not terrible, but my bent needle basically stopped me doing it how I'd want to be honest. Next up, we're going to take some, you could use a few shades for this one here. And you're basically going to paint this into the recesses here. This is Nuln oil that I'm using currently. And that will just shade sort of the geometry of the weapon. Next up, we're on to basing. And this one, I think it's called Armageddon Dunes from Citadel. I picked it up in my local Warhammer shop. It's not what I went in for, but you know, sometimes you just end up picking extra things. I find it helps to apply it to a few bases and then start spreading it around. It's kind of like paint, glue, and you know, aggregate all in one. It's kind of sand. You could probably recreate this very well with just super glue and like garden dirt or sand and PVA, and then you can just use your finger to clean off the edges. That's how it looks after that's done. The next stage, we're going to go back to Agrax Earth Shade, absolute lifesaver again. This is actually thinned a bit with water because I was at the bottom of my pot. And you're just going to liberally apply it to the entire base. After it's dry, you're going to want to do a little yellowy brown highlight. Kind of first off, you're going to do quite a browny yellow mix just to kind of do the overall color. And next, the final one you're going to want to do is a kind of yellowy one just to kind of bring out the highlights. I don't think it's perfect, this kind of colour selection that I've done, but there you go. Finally, and this is kind of my favourite bit, to be honest, you're going to edge the bases. This is, for me, is like when a model's finally done. It's like the chocolate pudding for dessert. You get to, you know, just kind of slap it all on there and use the edge of your brush, and you kind of can't go wrong, really. Just get it all on there, and it should be fine. It's slightly watered down, this flows quite nicely. And there you go, that's still wet there. That's kind of how it looks. And there you go, it's all done. The brown kind of serves well to show the high colour, the light colour contrast of the gold and the blues, and it also helps it stand out from the tabletop as well. Cool, I hope you've enjoyed watching this painting tutorial from Peacetime Painting. I've enjoyed doing it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and all of that jazz that you're sick of hearing about if you did. Cool, thanks for watching. Peacetime Painting out.